Hi, how's it going?
Good. Hi everyone, my name is Michelle Mitchell, and this is my husband Thomas. He's going to be playing the role of coach today.
Hello.
So let's get started. So Thomas, I'm a sports psychology consultant, and I typically work with high school and college athletes in team and individual settings. I like to take a holistic approach to educating my clients, which means I focus on supporting the development of an individual's physical and mental strength as a person and not just as an athlete. My goal is to provide appropriate tools and support for you and your team based on your needs. So every team has different strengths and areas of improvement. First, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I've been playing pickleball for about 10 years. I first started playing pickleball at a local tennis center. I went to pick up games in the beginning. Eventually, I started taking some classes. And then after that, I started entering little local tournaments. In 2015, my partner and I won the regional championships for our age group.
That's really cool. So pickleball is a relatively new sport. I'm not super familiar with it. So can you tell me a little bit more about it? Like how many players are there and what are the rules?
Oh my gosh, where do I start? Pickleball is like a mix between tennis and ping pong. The court is smaller than a tennis court. You have a paddle and a plastic wiffle ball. There are two players on each team if you're playing doubles, which is the more common way to play. There's a section of the court called the kitchen, which is in front of the net. It's the no volley zone. You can't step in this zone unless the ball bounces inside of it, and you can step in and hit it back. The goal is for a team to score 11 points. Sometimes it goes to 15, and you must be up by at least 2 points to win. It can be a fast-paced game at times, depending on how close you are to the net.
Cool. So that sounds really fun. I'll have to try it out sometime. Can you tell me what brings you in today? How can I help you?
So I coach a high school pickleball team. They play more recreationally, but I do want to find someone to bolster their mental game during training and competitions.
Okay. And as a coach, what do you think the strengths and areas of improvement are for your team? You mentioned mental game. Can you describe what issues you are seeing from the team?
Yeah, they're a fun group to work with. They're consistent and come to practice with a lot of energy and motivation. They like to have fun.
Okay.
Usually in good spirits, but recently they haven't been communicating well and are making silly errors that they usually wouldn't make.
Okay, so there's a communication issue. Would you say that they are less focused and easily distracted right now?
Yeah, it seems like some of them aren't fully present at practice. I'm not sure what that's about. I've tried checking in with them, but everyone says that things are fine.
Okay, that's helpful. So before I talk about what the program would look like, I'd like to review the terms of confidentiality.
Okay.
So there will be times when I work with the team and times when I work with individuals. I want to be clear that anything the athlete shares with me will be kept in confidence unless they permit me to share the information with you or others.
Got it.
Especially since they're teens, that's really important. If you'd like, we can brainstorm some topics that might be worth sharing with you if you think the information would benefit the team, but the final decision is ultimately up to that individual athlete. And I also want to mention that there might be some topics that are outside of my scope of practice. So I am not a licensed psychologist. I do educational consulting, which means I'm not able to diagnose or treat athletes.
Makes sense.
For example, if someone discloses that they have or they think they have an eating disorder, I'll have to refer them to a specialist.
All right.
That being said, does your school have counselors that I could talk to about referrals?
Yes, they do. All students are assigned a counselor when they first enter high school, and they're all great.
Perfect. So clients are much more likely to follow through with the referral process if the recommendation comes from people that they trust. So it will take some time for them to trust me, but it's good that you already have an established relationship with with the counselors. And speaking of support, how many people do you have on your staff?
Right now there's 4. We have 2 assistant coaches, an athletic trainer, and then myself.
Okay, great. So the program will be most effective if we have a strong support from all staff involved. That way they can help reinforce the mental skills learned during our training sessions. And I have a couple more questions for you. The first one is, how long would you like me to work with your team?
We're thinking about just starting off with the off season and
Okay.
preseason, and then if things are going well, we can talk about continuing for the entire season.
Okay, so that gives us about 4.5 months to start, which is a good amount of time. My last question is, what mode of communication works best for you?
I prefer text, but phone calls work too. I have my email linked to my phone, but I don't check it as often as I should.
Okay, I'll take note of that. Text works for me, but it's also good to know that I can give you a call if needed. One thing I do want to highlight, I try to be as available as possible to my clients since things can pop up unexpectedly throughout the day. However, I don't respond to text calls or emails after 8 p.m. unless it's an emergency. If something's urgent, please don't hesitate to call me, but otherwise I will respond to messages in the morning.
Got it.
Sound good? Okay, so let's talk about the program. So we're approaching your off season, which is when I prefer to introduce mental skills training since they're not working towards tournaments or competitions. As I mentioned earlier, I like to provide mental skills training to my clients so that they can develop as people and not just athletes. Oftentimes, our daily hassles and stressors can appear in sports, so I believe it's important to teach kids and young adults about life skills in a sports setting and help them find ways to transfer those skills to other parts of their lives. So, what is your experience with sports psychology?
Not much. I've never worked with a sports psychology consultant, but I've been hearing a lot more about it recently, and it seems like more and more professional sports teams are hiring sports psychology consultants. And from what I hear, they're having a lot of success. I was talking to the high school football coach, and he mentioned that you have worked with his team before, and he said it really helped them, and I figured I'd reach out to see what it was all about.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that Coach Richard found our sessions helpful. Yeah, sports psychology has definitely gotten a lot of attention recently. I think it's great that professional athletes are starting to open up about their mental health. It really is just as important as one's physical health. So, getting back to your team, do you have any ideas or thoughts as to why some of the kids are more distracted?
Not specifically. They're teenagers, so they can have a lot going on. They're trying to balance school, sports, and social life.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I was thinking maybe they're getting burnt out.
It's possible. So that's something that I would keep in mind, but I won't know for sure until I spend a couple weeks observing the team. But let's talk about their developmental stage. So your team members are 13 to 18 years old, or in other words, they're in the early to late adolescent stage. Lots of changes are happening in the early adolescent stage, which is when kids are 13 to 15 years old. So how many kids are on your team within that age range?
There's 6.
Okay, and are they mostly boys, girls, or an even mix?
It's split.
Okay.
50-50.
Okay, so athletes in this age group, they'll see an increase in muscle mass, strength, and cardiopulmonary endurance. Girls and boys both accumulate fat mass and muscle mass, but girls usually accumulate fat mass at a greater rate with the onset of puberty. And meanwhile, muscle strength dramatically increases in boys. And this is also a time marked by a temporary decrease in coordination and balance, as well as a loss of flexibility. So it's common to see that in the younger kids in your group if you're noticing a lack of coordination. So your 16 to 18-year-olds are typically in late adolescence. These boys continue to increase their strength, speed, and size, but at a slower rate than during puberty, and girls are continuing to accumulate fat mass. So their muscle strength and aerobic capacity are increasing into adulthood. And at this age, athletes usually choose sports that they are good at and enjoy. So it's really important because sports provide kids with the opportunity to develop independence, identify with a peer group, and increase social interaction. And positive sport experiences can go a long way to ensuring exercise maintenance and sport participation during the adult years.
Now that you mention it, I did notice that a few of the boys are going through puberty. They've had a couple growth spurts and they seem a lot less coordinated than they were last year. They're all wiggly and they don't know how to control their body.
Yeah, I see a lot of wiggles in my clients lately too. So let's circle back to that a little bit later. We talked and said that the kids are less focused and this could be leading to communication problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is what I would do first. So during a team meeting, you could introduce me and let the team know I'd be attending practices and tournaments to observe how the team interacts on and off the court. After a couple of weeks have gone by and I've had time to meet everyone, we can have another team meeting where I lead a mindfulness exercise. So I believe that bringing the attention to your body and thoughts is the first step to implementing lasting change. And I lost my spot. And short mindfulness or meditation exercises might help your athletes understand why they are distracted. This exercise can be done anywhere, but let's have everyone meet at the pickleball courts. I'll ask them to find a comfortable position, either sitting or lying down, and they'll close their eyes and breathe normally. You can even do this now if you'd like. But I'll explain what mindfulness is, which is the act of noticing our thoughts and body tension in the moment. I'll have them notice any tense body part, such as their jaw or shoulders, and ask them to try and relax that body part. From there, I will have them focus on their breathing, saying inhale, exhale in their mind as they breathe. And it's important for them to know that it's normal for their minds to wander. The important part is that they notice when it happens and then recenter by bringing their attention back to their breath. The first session will only be 3 to 4 minutes, but I recommend doing this 3 to 4 times a week if possible, slowly increasing the duration of time as the kids get more practice.
That sounds like an interesting exercise, but how exactly will mindfulness translate to their pickleball performance?
Great question. So, mental skills are just like physical skills. They need to be practiced in order to see progress. And as your team gets more comfortable noticing their thoughts and creating more body awareness during the mindfulness practice, they will naturally start to use that mental skill during practice and eventually during competitions. For example, Tina will hopefully be able to notice that she is tired and stressed because she stayed up late studying for her final exams. And because of this awareness, she will be able to adjust her behaviors so that she reduces her risk of injury. During practice or a competition, your team will be able to notice their racing thoughts, which may be a distraction, and refocus on the present moment by returning to their breathing.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So is mindfulness the main thing you'll be working on?
It'll be one of the main areas of focus for the first 3 to 4 weeks. I want to talk to them also about their group dynamic. I think it's best to be direct about it and let them know that you've noticed a drop in communication and that I'm there to help restore that communication. I would lead a group discussion about what teamwork and would ask some questions like, what makes a successful team and how do you know when you're communicating well with your doubles partner? I would guide the discussion based on their answers and hopefully help them recognize why their communication is lacking and what they can do about it.
That sounds like a great plan.
Great, I'm glad you're on board. Going back to the boys who are going through puberty, you mentioned that they are a lot less coordinated now than they were last year. And I think taking the team through self-talk and goal-setting exercises can help them stay focused on the present moment, which can increase their confidence and self-esteem as they are experiencing all the changes that come with puberty.
What's self-talk?
So self-talk is any statement or thought about yourself. There are 3 types of self-talk: instructional, negative, and positive. Instructional self-talk happens when you are learning a new skill or breaking bad habits. For example, what would you tell a new pickleball player about their forehand stroke?
You want to keep a slight bend in your elbow and you want to fold through.
Amazing, yes. So that is an example of instructional self-talk. Negative self-talk is often referred to as the critic in your head. So this critic is likely to come out after a mistake or a disappointing performance. Put-downs and self-defeating statements are both examples of negative self-talk. So have you heard any kind of negative self-talk among your athletes?
Oh yeah, a lot. I didn't think it was an issue since that's what I teach them and that's what I do with myself, but it's usually how I motivate myself to work hard.
Gotcha. Okay, good to know. So the last kind of self-talk is positive self-talk. Athletes use this to encourage and prepare themselves for the next opportunity that comes their way. Positive self-talk helps improve performance through creating an optimistic rather than pessimistic outlook on a particular situation. So this doesn't mean that your athletes can never be frustrated or disappointed, but it should be used after disappointing or adverse situations. I can take your athletes through a few self-talk exercises and hopefully they will find themselves having higher self-esteem and confidence.
Wow, I never knew there were different kinds of self-talk. I'd like to learn more about that so I can also share this with my athletes.
That's great. Since I won't be with the team every day, it's important that you, the assistant coaches, and the athletic trainer all understand the exercises that we will do and why they're important. You will have to reinforce these skills we learn and make sure that athletes are incorporating their mental skills training into practices and games.
We can definitely do that.
Cool. So the last thing I want to go over is goal setting. I'm sure you have done goal setting before in the past, but are you familiar with SMART goals?
Yeah, we use them often.
Okay, great. So as you know, goal setting is a process of taking active steps to achieve your desired outcome. What are you doing?
Just keep going.
Okay, like fitness training cycles, which include macro, meso, and micro cycles. Effective goal setting includes short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals. So goals are usually related to the sport an athlete is participating in, but lifestyle goals are equally important because external stressors like going through puberty can affect athletes' performance. Lifestyle goals include but are not limited to sleep, nutrition, school, and relationships. We'll use smarter goals in our training sessions. I won't go over the SMART part, but I do want to review the ER section since not everyone uses this format. So the E stands for evaluated. So after setting goals, evaluation is an important part of the process. I recommend that you schedule time with your athletes to look at their goals. So this is a time for athletes to review and reflect, find out what's working, what's not, what were some obstacles, and what were some useful tools. Questions that you can ask are, what were the results? What caused those results? How much control did we have over those results? Are we happy with the results? Did we set the right goals? Did we track our goal progress in a way that promoted accountability? So that's the E part of SMARTER. The last part is R for revised. After evaluating goals, athletes should revise them if necessary. And you should ask, what should we change about upcoming goals? And what should we keep the same? How can we ensure better results than last time? And do other or additional people need to be included in these goals? So I recommend revisiting and refining goals every 3 months or so. I have also found that implementing daily goals helps keep athletes, especially kids and teenagers, focused on a task. So just make sure the daily goals are things that will help them reach their short, medium, and long-term goals.
Thank you for sharing that. I like the smarter goals. I think evaluating and revising their goals will help motivate the team and keep them focused. Sometimes I feel like they set their goals and then forget them for the rest of the season. This has been really helpful. I think these 3 exercises are great starting points for the kids. I'm looking forward to having you at practice. Is there anything else we need to discuss?
So we already talked about confidentiality, the referrals to specialists, support from the staff, the length of the contract. We're going to start with the off-season and the preseason, and then we'll meet again to discuss the rest of the season and our communication boundaries. The last thing we'll need to talk about, if we would like to finalize this, is the financial arrangement. So is there a time that we can meet with your athletic director to go over details?
Sure, I'll email her and CC you so we can set up a meeting. Thanks so much for taking the time to meet today. I'm looking forward to working with you.
Of course, it was my pleasure. Talk to you soon. Yay!